Let's find out who's the T102sportsnow.com Fanelli, Evans, and Patel Athlete of the Week. This student-athlete showed their mettle in competition and put up incredible numbers, just like Fanelli, Evans, and Patel.
When you've been injured by someone else's carelessness, you're dealing with one of the worst times in your life. You want a trusted friend and neighbor you can count on. And that's what sets us apart at Fanelli, Evans, and Patel.
Back with another Fanelli, Evans, and Patel, T102sportsnow.com Athlete of the Week. This week's honor going to Panther Valley senior wrestler Brenda Banks. Brenda, thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So you're a 4-time state champion. That gets you our Athlete of the Week. You do it by pin over the weekend at the PIAA championships in Hershey. And for my money, that makes you the most dominant athlete in Schuylkill League history. I think really across every sport. You could maybe even branch that out into District 11 and the state. You've just accomplished so much. And I wanted to go back to the moment leading you up to winning your most recent gold medal. So take us back through the tournament from your point of view, and then where does hanging that 4th gold around your neck rank among the best memories of your career?
Well, starting off with how the tournament went for me, it was definitely a fun time. I always have a good time going out to states, especially when I'm able to bring my teammates with me, which are my best friends, Annalie and Elise on the team. But going into my first match, I think everyone's first match, no matter how long you've wrestled or how high performing of an athlete you are, it's always going to give you some nerves. So going into my first match, I feel like I definitely was a little bit off, more so than usual, just because knowing that this was going into my 4th straight title, like hoping that I can get it, it was going to be more impactful than the previous 3. So I definitely needed to stay calm and focused, but I was definitely a little nervous with everything that was going on. Going to my first match, I think I executed well. I took her, a girl from Central Dauphin, I can't recall her name, but we went a full 6-minute match, which I haven't done in quite a while. So it's uncommon for me to not usually get a quick pin. So going a full 6 minutes in my first state match this year was definitely something, but I was more excited to just get the match out of the way. Going into my second match against Evelyn Shear from Hazleton, she is an upcoming freshman, and she was completely undefeated on the season before I wrestled her for the first time at Coalcracker, and I got taken down there. So that was that was another staple of my season that I had to kind of take into account when going against her, knowing that she was a strong opponent. But I ended up being able to secure that pin as well in the first period. And my semifinals match didn't really give me trouble at all. At that point, I was kind of more in my groove where I'm just getting to my moves, getting to what I know, and securing that 3rd pin and 3rd win. So now being able to go into the finals match, it was once again Zoe Murphy, how it was last year. And last year it was a quick pin in the first period, but I think she definitely upped her game here going into this finals match with me. So taking her almost all 3 periods before I was able to get a pin from being on top position in the last match. But overall, I was extremely happy to be able to bring the win home for my community, my family, my friends, that they were in my mind the entire time I was wrestling. I wanted to do it for them.
And where do you think that ranks the most recent state championship among the memories that you've made here in your Panther Valley career?
Oh, it's definitely bittersweet being that was my last high school match. That was my last time stepping on the mat as a high school wrestler and doing folk style at all. Really, it meant the world to me to be able to get that. But it definitely was a lot more impactful than the previous 3, just knowing that this was truly it for my high school career. I've come a very long way from not even knowing what wrestling was when I first started to winning a 4th straight title. It's unbelievable, honestly, even to myself.
Yeah, and I gotta ask, what makes this still fun for you? Because you've been running circles around some of the best girls in the state. I think you won a national title as well at some point in your career, and now you're still finding a way to get faster, to get stronger. What do you think's like keeping you from getting bored of this?
I think it's definitely being able to be so dominant in the sport is what kind of keeps me driven, and as well as finding other people that give me competition as I'm wrestling. Now, in the state, it's a little harder to find because the talent margin between, the top few, especially in the heavyweight class, I think, as it is the least amount of wrestlers of all weight classes. I think that the talent margin is a little bit different than other weight classes. So within the state, it's not much of a challenge for me to kind of blow through everything. But like just wrestling and finding new people up and coming that are able to give me matches, like real hard wrestling, I think that's what keeps me motivated the most. Being able to wrestle those matches with harder opponents and still come out on top is what makes it fun for me, knowing that I still, through my hard work and my effort, my dedication, I'm still, to me, in my own way, the best.
Yeah, and everybody talks about your accomplishments as a wrestler, and you've earned that. But I want to know a little bit about Brenda off the mat, because I think when you succeed at the level that you have, people kind of forget, like, you're still in high school, you still have problems, you're still young, trying to find yourself like everybody else. So how do you handle the pressures off the mat? And then how does wrestling help you get through that?
Honestly, I feel like since I've started wrestling, life has definitely changed for the better for me. I haven't, I think it's in the most impactful way it's changed me as a person, really. My personality is what evolved from beginning this. I think that when I started, I wasn't a very talkative person. I was very quiet, very reserved, not too, because I'm just not out there, very introverted. And once I started wrestling, it kind of forces you to bond and be there with a group of people that are all going through the same thing you are. And I've grown up playing sports, honestly, like football, track and field, basketball. I grew up just being active. So the team aspect I wasn't new to, but wrestling is definitely just different. It's a different kind of camaraderie that you make with the people that you're one way or another suffering with through practices, through tournaments, wins, losses. You're all there for each other. Y'all doing the same thing and feeling that. So I think that wrestling has definitely brought me out of my shell, and for the good, because I love who I am now. I really appreciate who I've evolved into because of this sport, and I'm honestly thankful for everyone who's been supporting this entire time. As for just off the mat in general, again, I think that I'm not really pressured by my success, more so because I have such a loving and supporting community behind me. My family, my mother, especially my mother and my sisters, have always been completely supportive of everything that I've ever done, all my endeavors. So coming into wrestling and just being able to dominate the way I have, they've always been there for me.
That's incredible. Yeah, and you kind of touched there on your background as an athlete. I want to get more into that, kind of talk about, your connection and your love for competition. Around what age did you start playing sports?
I started playing football, was my first sport, in fourth grade. And actually, a funny story with that is I originally I wanted to start playing sports. My mom wanted me and my little sister to get into doing something. So we had gone to a tryout, a cheerleading tryout that I did not know what it was. So, and my mother and father took me there. And when I found out it was cheerleading, I started crying to my dad, and I begged him to let me do football instead, which was like across the hall. And
Oh,
my
man.
mom was not for it because, I'm a girl and I was young and she didn't want me like, being rough with the boys and stuff. And
Yeah.
my dad, he was pretty much the one who pushed for that one, football. He was like, no, just let her, try it out, do what she wants. And I think I did excel a good bit when I played football. I was pretty good at it, but my team wasn't like the best. So, football being more of a team sport than individual at all is really, I couldn't excel there. And I think that's what kind of sparked my love for wrestling when I first started it. I excelled at football only to an extent though, because it is a team sport. At the end of the day, you're only as good as your team, right? In a sport like that. But with wrestling, even though it is a team sport, it's definitely more individual. And I liked the aspect of putting everything I have into that sport and being able to see the results of it, in my own way.
You see, that's the difference between you and a normal person like me, Brenda. See, I cried at football practice because I got hit. You cried because you couldn't hit somebody. Uh, I think that's what makes you stand out. Yeah, just an incredible story. I'm glad you shared that. And when we talk about some of the other sports that I know you're in track and field right now. What else did you do growing up? And then when did you fall in love with wrestling, and when did that become your favorite?
Well, like I said, I only started playing sports at all in fourth grade. I did in my winter season, after I was done with football, I started playing basketball. And I think I could confidently say that basketball is the worst sport that I've ever participated in. I am no good at basketball at all. I was so bad. And my team, I had some pretty good girls on the team, but I was just for some reason so bad. I couldn't do it for the life of me. But my mom loved basketball. She loved that I played it. So she kept me in it for 2 or 3 years. And then I quit without telling her to start doing wrestling with my friends.
Yeah.
So my best friend, Annalia Bennick, she's on the team. Mr. Lesnick, our coach, started kind of hounding her back when COVID had kind of simmered down and we all came back to school in the 2022 season. He was getting the program back together and he was really on Annalia to join because he wanted to have some girls on the team. And me being her best friend, she told me that, she, if I did it, then she would do it. And I was already despaired in basketball. So I, without telling my mom, I started going to wrestling practices instead of basketball and just pretending that I was still in basketball until my first meet came around and she showed up and it was wrestling. And she was appalled at first. But she ended up, I won my first ever match that I had wrestled. So she was really proud of me and she supported me from then on.
As if football wasn't bad enough, then you quit basketball and go to wrestling. But that is great. And I'm sure you get this question constantly about being a female wrestler and what it's like to inspire other women to overcome their fears and just get out there on the mat. And all of that is so important. But honestly, I think, you've done enough where I'm not going to put you in that box anymore. I genuinely believe that you've earned an opportunity to compete against the best in your sport. And that's men or women. And that's a conversation for another day when we have more time. But, talking about the NCAA and them recently adding women's wrestling, how might that affect your future when it comes to that now being an official Division I championship sport?
I think that for the most part, I'm actually extremely excited. Honestly, I am planning on wrestling in college and continuing my career, hopefully, with a good school. I haven't committed yet or made a super definitive decision, but I do have a school or two in mind that I am very much leaning towards. But overall, I'm just extremely happy to see how much the sport is growing, not only for women, but just in general. Wrestling as a sport never really occurred to me until I was actually in it. And the fact that, it was so small for just women and just starting out, girls didn't even have a districts tournament when I first started. It was just regionals and states. So going into this now, being NCAA, being able to elevate my athletic expertise, I guess, and just continue on my career, leaving it where it is now and seeing how it was when I picked it up. I'm honestly I'm so blown away by how the direction that the sport has taken. And I only know that it's going to continue to go up from here because it's the most fast growing sport in America right now, if I'm not mistaken, women's wrestling. So I'm really excited to see what's in store for that.
Yeah, and I think when you accomplish what you've accomplished, you earn the right to be in the conversation, even as a prospect on the rise for a Team USA. And for those who may not know, what is the process of getting into Olympic level wrestling on like a national stage? Have you thought about that? And how realistic even is a path like that for somebody?
Honestly, for me personally, an Olympic level of competition isn't really in my view at the moment, mostly due to the fact that the weight classes are still so small. I think if I'm not mistaken, the highest international women's wrestling weight class is 167, and obviously being pretty on the heavier side of 235, that's like a ridiculous drop. So and then of course college is 207, which is much more obtainable, but from an Olympic standpoint, I'm not exactly sure that's for me. But in general, it's not as hard execution wise, the process. It's more so the fact that, what you're willing to put into it is obviously what you're going to get out of it. If you're not 100% into the sport, because wrestling is a full body and mind sport. You need to put your whole all into it if you want such success. So if you are willing to put in that work, which is, hard, grueling hours, practices, workouts, it's a lot, then I think that it is obtainable for a lot more people than you would think.
Wow. Okay. And that is the perfect answer to that question, because I think a lot of us who aren't too familiar with the wrestling world are going to be shocked to hear that it cuts off at 167 in the Olympics and then 207 in college. Usually it'd be more opportunities in college and at the international level than it would be in high school. Why do you think the reason is that high school is more wide open when it comes to maybe, allowing for more weight classes than the higher levels?
I feel that it's mostly due to the fact that some people think that heavier wrestling is boring or slow
Oh,
paced. People
okay.
don't really want to watch that. And I'd like to disagree for the fact that obviously as a heavier wrestler, I feel like my wrestling style, the way I wrestle, isn't very adherent to what is considered quote unquote normal heavyweight matches. I like to incorporate a lot of shots. I do a lot of work in gaining speed and strength other than just, usual heavyweight matches. Typically you'll see some pretty strong people, but it's a slower paced match because there's a lot of throws involved and more than actual technique is what most people would think.
Oh.
But again, I'd like to disagree because I feel like anyone in any heavier weight class that would want to incorporate that type of technique into their arsenal could definitely do that. It's not impossible at all. But on a higher stage, such as the Olympic level or even college, stopping at 207, I feel like they're trying to crack down on slow-paced wrestling because it's a higher level of athletics.
Yeah, and honestly, as a wrestling casual, someone who will watch the NCAA tournament but doesn't follow the sport too closely, I can tell you that I think a lot of casual wrestling fans, we just want to watch like stars. And you're one of those stars where if you're out there, we want to see that. And I feel like that would translate to the college and the Olympic level, regardless of what weight class you were at. I think that's appealing to a lot of sports fans in general when there is a star. So yeah, I think that's interesting to know. I'm glad you covered that because I'm on board with you. I hope women's wrestling continues to grow and they continue to have, those opportunities out there. Hey, before we let you go, Brenda, this has been a great interview so far. We're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to do some this or that Schuylkill County edition. And we're going to start it off bonfires or block parties.
Oh, I have grown up on block parties. I definitely am a block party girl. When I first moved out to Pennsylvania, I originally grew up in New York for a while before I moved out here. But yeah, they were extremely common. Lots of fun with the whole neighborhood, just everyone getting along and sharing, buying different things. I love, honestly, all the stands and different games and stuff that you can do. I'm definitely more of a block party kind of person.
Love it. Next one. Would you rather camp in the woods or tailgate at a sporting event or concert?
I'm gonna have to say tailgate because I am not really an outside person. I don't do bugs. Like, I am deathly afraid of insects, and I know like a lot of people say that, but when I say that, you have to understand I'm being so serious. Like, I can't. Anything other than like the common housefly will put me to tears.
So you heard it here first, everybody. 4-time state champion Brenda Banks, afraid of bugs. Wow. Okay. Okay. That one's interesting. So you're probably going to hate my next question, but as you know, being here and living here and growing up here, it's an outdoors type of area. If you had to, would you rather go hiking or swimming?
Oh, well, they're both honestly terrible options because I can't swim well. I can swim, like, to save my life, I can swim, but I don't swim for leisure. And I hate like being outside in like grassy or like areas with lots of trees because I know there's lots of bugs, so they're everywhere.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd probably say swimming, just like be in the water, but I can't stand bugs again. I can't do it.
So in other words, I need to come up with some new questions. Oh man, that is hilarious. Well, we're going to give you one here. If you had to grab a slice of pizza in your hometown of Lansford, are you going to Cabrera's or Marco's?
I think I'm a little biased because my house is genuinely one house away from Cabrera's. So if we're gonna get pizza, it's right there. I'm talking like less than a minute walk.
All right, I saved it. I saved the segment with that relatable question after the last two. The answer might have been neither. But hey, Brenda, congratulations on all your success and winning Athlete of the Week. Again, 4-time state champion. I think that puts you up there at least in the conversation for most dominant athletes to ever come out of this area. You've left a legacy at Panther Valley and in the Schuylkill League and in District 11 and in the state of Pennsylvania as a dominant force. It's awesome. We're so proud of you. And hey, thanks for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you so much for awarding me with Athlete of the Week. I am always honored completely.
Check us out next Wednesday for another T102 SportsNow.com Fanelli, Evans, and Patel Athlete of the Week. At Fanelli, Evans, and Patel, get the best when faced with the worst.